The 2010 Formula 1 season will forever be remembered as the season in which we saw 5 of the greatest Formula 1 drivers of that era battle it out for a world championship. However, what people often forget is it was in that same season we saw the arrival of 3 brand new teams to the grid. Their performances, well, to put it nicely, hang on, who are we kidding? They were f***ing awful. Hey there guys, and welcome to FP1, and today marks the return of the series that kicked off the comedy content on this channel in the first place. Well, comedy if you want to call it that. Today, by popular demand, we'll be discussing Lotus and Caterham, a team that graced the F1 grid from 2010 to 2014, and achieved, well, pretty much nothing of value at all. If you like what you see here, make sure you do check out the rest of the series, links to which I've left down in the description below. And while you're at it, do consider liking, subscribing and sharing the video as well. And finally, if there is another team that you want me to cover in this series, do drop a suggestion down in the comments below or ask me over on Twitter. But with all that said and done then, let's talk about Lotus, one of F1's worst teams. Back in 2009, the FIA were looking for new entrants to join the F1 grid, after the economic crisis of 2008 forced big names such as Toyota, Honda and BMW out of the sport. And it was BMW's late departure that really opened the door for the Lotus racing team. Now, it's a common misconception here that the team were linked to the Lotus team of old, who raced in F1 from 1958 to 1994, fielding the likes of Sterling Moss, Graham Hill, Ayrton Senna and many more. In actuality though, this was as far from the truth as you could possibly get. This new Lotus entry for 2010 was headed up by Malaysian businessman Tony Fernandez, who acted as team principal, and then Mike Gascoigne, who had previously held the technical roles at Jordan, Benetton, Renault, Toyota and Force India. The team would also sign on race winners Heikki Kovalainen and Jarno Trulli for their first campaign in 2010, which, if you take AWS's statistics, contributes to one of the strongest lineups of all time. In reality though, we all know these guys were going to be dog shit. When Lotus were granted entry, our man Gascoigne claimed that he wanted to rival the success of Brawn GP the year before, which went well, didn't it? Thing was, though Brawn's story is incredible, at least they had been working on the car design from early 2008 onwards. This wasn't really the case for Lotus, with the factory opening its doors in September 2009, less than 6 months before the start of the season. Add to this that on the first day they had just 4 employees working for them. Like, 4! Oh, bloody hell. Supposedly, when Kovalainen first visited the factory around December time, they hadn't even finished building the walls or floors yet. And already, you can tell how well this is going to go, can't you? Lotus, along with fellow newcomers HRT and Virgin, managed to secure a supply of Cosworth engines for their first F1 campaign. And if you thought the 2020 Ferrari engines were bad, whoa, you've got no idea. Lotus launched their first car, dubbed the T127, in February 2010, which, in fairness, wasn't bad, given how quickly that car had to be designed and built. However, the pace of the car, or perhaps lack of it, was apparent for the first race of the season. Kovalainen and Trulli qualified P21 and P22, only beating the equally awful HRT team. The race, in fairness, was better, with Kovalainen finishing 15th and recording the team's first finish. However, this performance would set the tone for things to come, in a season marred with unreliability and plenty of retirements as well. Though the Lotus cars did do one thing right. Knowing that they wouldn't get much TV coverage due to being so f***ing slow, usually when they retired, they did it in rather spectacular fashion. Now, this is a joke obviously, but just listen to a few of these. At Monaco, Trulli was getting impatient trying to pass the HRT of Karun Chandok. An ill-fated move up the inside of the Indian driver saw Jarno yeeted over the top of the HRT, almost taking out race leader Mark Webber in the process. This wasn't the end of Mark's troubles with the Lotus cars, as a few races later, AWS appointed racing god Heikki Kovalainen decided he'd show the Australian what heaven looked like. Now fast forward to Singapore and Kovalainen would hit trouble once again. This time his engine got so fed up with going so slow, it thought it would just catch fire instead, summing up what was nothing more than a dismal first season for the team. That said, however, Lotus were able to come out of 2010 as the best of the 3 new teams and thus finished 10th in the championship, even if that was just on countback. However, this was important for the team, as at the time prize money was only allocated to the top 10 teams in the championship. Lotus ended up walking away from 2010 with $25 million, while Virgin and HRT got nothing. Heading into the following year, the start of 2011 actually looked pretty positive for the team, with them ditching the dreadful Cosworth engines and acquiring a supply of Renault ones for the 2011 season. They also managed to strike a deal with Red Bull for a supply of gearboxes and hydraulic systems. The team would change their name from Lotus Racing to Team Lotus, matching that of the original entry back in 1958. But if you thought any of this would yield better results on track, you'd be completely wrong. Sticking with their 2010 driver lineup of Kovalainen and Trulli, Heikki would take a season-best 13th at the opening round in Melbourne. But sadly, that's as good as it got for Lotus, who stayed 10th in the championship for a second year running. In fact, the 2011 season was more notable for the drama off the track rather than on it. After a less than ideal 2010 season, Fernandez's deal to use the Lotus name was terminated by rights holder Proton. Fernandez responded to this by going, "Fine, if I can't use Lotus, I'll use Team Lotus instead." Funnily enough, this rather pissed off Proton, who filed legal proceedings against the team throughout the 2011 season. Around this time, Fernandez also bought Caterham cars and requested the team's name change again to Caterham for 2012. While Kovalainen pressed to keep his seat for a third year running, Trulli would be dropped in favour of ex-Renault driver Vitaly Petrov. Caterham picked up where Team Lotus had left off, again finishing 10th in the standings. Heikki would match his best result for the team, finishing 13th in Monaco and Abu Dhabi, whilst Petrov would just miss out on points with 11th place at the last round in Brazil. However, despite arguably their best season to date, this is where things go a bit pear-shaped. Coming into 2013, Caterham decided to mix up its drivers. Forgettable Marussia driver Charles Pic and Twitter meme lord Guido van der Garde were signed on for the 2013 season. This lineup, however, was, well, hopeless. The team also wanted to shake up its management, and out of all the talent on the grid, who could they possibly go for?
Partnerships in Formula 1, we enjoy something which is fantastic, which is the media value of the sport.
Oh, hell. Perhaps then it's not a surprise to tell you that with Cyril the Bitbull on board, Caterham had their worst season to date, never finishing higher than 14th and thus ending the season plumb last in the championship. And now we've got to move on to 2014 and oh boy, here we go. The new regulations for 2014 would usher in a new look for Formula 1, with the world excited to see what the new cars would look like. It would appear as though the cars were excited for the season as well, as this would be the year of the d***nos. As each new car was unveiled, the same question was being asked, and that was, can these things possibly get any uglier? And Caterham would rise to that challenge, unveiling the CT05 with, well, this. Now, it's not very often that you can just look at a Formula 1 car and immediately tell how it's going to do in the season, but after seeing this, well, it was clear that they were going to be utterly f***ing hopeless. And, funnily enough, I would be correct. Caterham brought in another new lineup in the form of Marcus Ericsson and Kayumi Kobayashi, who would return to the sport after a year on the sidelines. Kayumi would make a big impact in his first race back, though not quite in the way you'd expect. Wanting to test out his capabilities, he decided to penetrate the rear of Felipe Massa's Williams on the opening lap in Australia. And really, this set the precedent for the entire season. Caterham never finished inside the points yet again, claiming the record for the most Grand Prix entries without scoring a single World Championship point. And if things couldn't get any worse, their closest rivals Marussia claimed their first points courtesy of Jules Bianchi at Monaco. And while all this was going on, another problem began to surface. Money. Over the summer break, management was handed over to a consortium of Swiss and Middle Eastern investors. Tensions quickly began to brew when Kobayashi was forced to sit out of the Belgian Grand Prix in favour of three-time Le Mans winner André Lotterer. However, when André completed the weekend, the car was so he'd straight up refused to race in it again, leading to Kayumi returning for the rest of the season. Well, I say rest of the season. Come on, they made it that far. The Caterham team entered administration in October 2014, missing the American and Brazilian rounds of the championship. Now, usually the team would have been penalised heavily for missing a race. However, given the company's financial situation, the FIA decided against pushing ahead with these. Interestingly enough, just before news broke, it had been revealed that Rubens Barrichello had signed a 3-race deal to race with the team, though after they went into administration, this sadly failed to materialise. A crowdfunding campaign managed to save the team for one final race at the season closer in Abu Dhabi. However, the company sadly folded in the off-season, having failed to secure a buyer. And really, there ends our retrospective on the Lotus and Caterham F1 teams. Now, were these guys the worst teams in the modern era? Quite possibly, yeah. However, it should be noted that given their awful management structure and lack of resources, they did still manage to compete occasionally with the teams in the lower midfield. And really, when you compare them to HRT and Virgin, up until 2013, they were the best of the three. Now, I appreciate that's like comparing three massive piles of shit, but still, it's something. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the situation. Let me know what you think about the Lotus and Caterham teams. And as I said at the beginning, if there's any other teams you want me to cover in this series, do let me know down in the comments below. And while you're at it, make sure you leave a like, subscribe and share the video with your mates. But that's all from me then. I will catch you guys tomorrow with my instant reaction for the Italian Grand Prix. But until then, have a good one.